Okay guys, so I took out some of these trays yesterday and we're going to use those for planting. I have my bag of seeds and my cup of coffee. Let's get into this. So before I even start planting, I just want to sort through my seeds, lay them out so that I can formulate a game plan. This bag is full of things to plant, and I may not plant everything that I've taken out, but there are intentions for everything to go into the garden eventually. Things like flowers and veggies. This little pile over here is my brassicas, and this is what we've got. We've got some cauliflower, some Brussels sprouts, some kohlrabi, some cabbage, some romanesco, as well as some broccoli. So I'll probably plant a few more broccolis than everything else because Duncan is quite partial to broccoli. I am reseeding with parsley just because our parsley over the summertime bolted, so we're going to add a bit more in now and hopefully get a little bit more over winter. Then on this section over here, this is just peas. I am absolutely in love with peas. So I've got some Oregon giant peas that we got from Duncan's sister in America. We've also got some telephone pole peas from my mother. And then last but not least, the old favorite, the green feast. For green leafy veg, we have got mustard greens, lettuce, and 2 varieties of kale. For flowers, we're not doing anything crazy at the moment. I'm starting some calendulas, some sweet peas in 2 varieties, as well as some alyssum, just for something pretty. For onions, I have got 3 varietals of onion. I have got the early Texas, the Australian brown, and then this is a red Creole. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry if I'm messing it up. But I will be planting all of these onions and we'll see which do best for me, as well as leeks that I know I can grow at a pretty high yield in my small space, and some white spring onions. There you have it, guys. This is the entire lot and we've got some planting to do. This garden here, the in-ground garden, will be reserved for longer term growing things like onions and leeks as well as garlic. And we will be using the seeds that we're starting today to fill the gaps and plant out many of our already empty and waiting containers. So I am a Southern Hemisphere gardener and we are currently headed into our autumn. So I am planting my winter garden at the moment in the hopes of ensuring that I can get a harvest all year round from out of my garden and not go through a hunger gap. So these are the seeds that I'm planting, and they are predominantly cold weather crops or cool weather crops. I fortunately live in an area where the weather is milder, I suppose. Our winters do not necessarily freeze over, and in our microclimate, that's not always an issue for us either. I have this tote, this black storage bin, and it already has quite a bit of soil in it. This is a compost and potting mix. I'm not too worried about it. Generally I wouldn't use compost to start my seeds because it is more coarse, and seeds are essentially their own nutrient system. So what it requires to get that little plant to sprout is already in the seed. The only reason we fertilize our seedlings is because once they've sprouted, their roots then seek out those nutrients to help the plant grow big and strong. You don't typically plant in compost though, because the compost we buy has little wood chips and sticks, and it isn't really broken down as well as what it could be. So we normally would plant in a seed starting mix, which is a softer medium for the plants to grow in, something like a cocoa core or a blend from the nursery, where your soil is a lot finer. So what I've done for this, because of what I have at home, is I have this bark compost, and it is predominantly more of like a cocoa core. So I'm going to use this because it's going to be very fine, but I'm actually going to mix it in with the other compost and soil mix that I have here already, just to make it go a little bit further. We would typically start our seeds in seed starting mix, but I don't have any. What I do have is 2 bags of compost, and I'm going to blend them and just create a more, and just make enough soil to plant seeds in. So I'm just going to mix these two together, because the one at the bottom got rained on, so this tub actually has got water in it. I am going to rehydrate the soil once I've planted my seedlings. This may be a little bit more sloppy to start with, but it's not going to affect the end result. So when you are starting seeds, it is kind of cool to remember that it's your garden and you can do what feels comfortable for you. So Duncan and I have a small little homestead. It's an urban stand with a very small garden, and we're making do with what we have to grow the homestead that we want. I plan what I would like to grow. I start the seeds, and then obviously as they come up, where there is space available, the plants go in. I do designate areas for specific things, and it generally works out. But for the most part, you can use seed starting to help you guide what your family is going to eat. Don't plant the things you don't eat. If your family doesn't like cauliflower, don't grow cauliflower. We've got our seed trays full. Fortunately enough, I guesstimated correctly, and we managed to fill all of these trays as well as these pots. I'm not worried that they're not to the brim. I can go back and backfill out of the actual bag. I just don't want to have a plastic container that has no holes in it, collecting areas for mosquitoes to breed in. I'm going to make myself another cup of coffee, and then I'm going to sit here and make labels for all the things that we're going to grow. So as you can see, I did in fact make the labels, but I didn't have coffee on my own. I was blessed, and my sister came over for a visit, so we sat around chatting and I put her to work. We made the labels and we planted out all of the seeds. I just want to say thank you for coming with me on today's journey, and I'm sorry that it kind of ends like this, but at the same time, I'm not sorry at all. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye guys.